Next up, Byddi Lee from Armagh considers herself a jack of all trades. She has worked as a security guard, a bouncer, a caterpillar counter, a tree ring measurer, a weeder, a dolphin researcher, and a ski instructor. Now she writes because it would be a shame to waste the stories from all those crazy jobs. Tonight, Byddi is reading Sweet.
Thank you. My goodness, I think this is one of our biggest crowds ever. So thank you so much for coming. It really is wonderful to see you all, and what a gorgeous setting it is too. Right, I suppose I should stop talking and read the story. So this story was inspired by events that actually happened 100 years ago, and I read about it just in an online article, and I thought, wow, wonder what it must have been like to be there when this happened. The story is called Sweet. My daughter is dying. Her fruity sweet breath cloys the air. Every patient on this hospital ward exhales that same sickly odour. 4 years ago, in the fall of 1918, after my husband William returned from the World War, the Spanish influenza hit Toronto. We kept our grocery store going, selling essentials like flour and sugar. Good Lord, sugar of all things, keeping us in business. So many people died then that the hearses could not keep up with the caskets. And I thought nothing could be so dreadful. Until Rose's diagnosis. Just turned 10. My daughter's eyes sink into skin so dry it wrinkles like an emaciated old woman's. 77 years ago, Rose's great-grandmother fled famine and came to Canada. What bitter irony that for the last 3 years we've had to impose near starvation on Rose. Too much sugar in her blood, the doctors say. There's nothing they can do for her. We hear rumours of new treatments. 12 days ago, they fed ground up dog's innards to Leo, a 14-year-old on the brink of death right here in Toronto General Hospital. But it was another failure. Of course it was. How could feeding dog's guts help anyone? Rose has been in a coma for 2 days. The doctors don't know how long she'll last. But we all know one thing. No one wakes from a diabetic coma. William and I sit holding her hands, waiting, on wooden chairs on either side of her metal-framed bed, one of 50, arranged in 2 rows with a table bearing a lamp between each patient. A wail rips through the murmur of the ward. William's head jerks up. Mrs. Clark's sobs chill my blood into icy daggers of panic. She wrenches her son's name, John, into a howl. The nurse pulls the sheet over his face as his mother bends over his body. Her moans layer her pain into the sweet-smelling air. Orderlies barely strain as they lift John's body onto the trolley bed and push it out. Dull silence returns to the grey outlines of the twilit ward. Dawn pushes through undraped windows. Sunlight chopped into glaring blocks of brightness by wooden frames inch up the walls. I cling to Rose's bird-boned hand. 3 men wearing white coats over suits bustle in. Not the usual doctors, but there's no point asking questions. The answer is always, we're doing everything we can. These men speak with the nurse in hushed, urgent tones. She clasps her hand to her chest and leads them to the bed at the top of the ward. William's eyes narrow as he watches from our position halfway down. What are they up to? He asks. Already the men are 3 beds along. One man, wearing spectacles, holds up a syringe. It glints in the sunlight. The child lies unmoving as he injects its arm. 2 women by its bedside lean upon one another. The men move to the next bed. The ward pulsates with silence until broken by a whisper. It's a new cure. Huh, like all the others, someone else says. The nurse wheels the trolley behind the men. Tiny bottles tinkle in time with the rattle of metal casters, then settle as the trolley stops. When the men reach Rose, William comes to my side of her bed to give them space. He clasps my hand and we watch. The men work without talking, confident and swift. One man punches the syringe needle into the soft flesh of Rose's upper arm. It feels almost violent. They trundle along to the next bed. Rose lies still, a tiny mound beneath the white sheet. Someone up the ward cries out, and I glug back a swallow of emotion. Not another one gone. I stare at Rose's hand, her translucent skin stretching over knuckles, fingers tipped with silver crescent moons set in lilac nail beds. William taps my shoulder. I look up at the white-coated men standing by the last patient. But that's not where William points. Not where a blooming cacophony of voices originate. Oh, praise the Lord, a woman cries from the top of the ward. Her jubilation in this place is raw, insulting. But the patient with her sits upright. At the next bed, parents hug each other, rejoicing while their little boy stretches a thin arm into the air. The child in the next bed wriggles beneath his covers. This miracle rolls down the ward towards us, child by child. The celebration contagious. The thin hand in mine twitches. Fingers curl against my palm, the softest of pressures. Rose's eyelids flutter, and in a fragile whisper, my daughter utters the sweetest word. Mama?